Holbrook New Media.
Welcome to the Holbrook New Media audio feed. We do audio, video, content creation, and that other stuff. HolbrookNewMedia.com. I'm Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Today we are going to do something a little different. Look for the usual episode of Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up, next week. Shortly after the death of my father-in-law, Hillard Hamilton, my wife was contacted by a guy we call Uncle Moe. He was in the Army with my father-in-law during World War II. He ended up making a cassette tape for Dee, telling stories of the war, and also playing a resonator guitar and harmonica with songs they sang back then. It honestly has the feel of an old-time radio show. He has quite a sense of humor and can spin a great yarn. Please bear in mind that this was recorded before political correctness was as big a deal as it is now. During the war, the U.S. government put out a lot of propaganda films and radio programs in which the enemies in the Pacific War were collectively called the Japs. Many of the World War II generation were trained to call them that. While this could be considered offensive today, just remember that it is highly likely that Japanese World War II veterans are likely to call Americans a few choice names as well. If we sanitize history, we will never learn the lessons that history can teach us. We would never know how offensive these names could be if we simply eliminated mention of them. We would do well to remember that those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. I, for one, would not want mankind to endure World War II, slavery, and so many other things that we now have learned lessons from. If we purge history of unpleasant things, our grandchildren will not believe it ever happened. A couple of notes. Uncle Moe always called Mr. Hamilton Hammy. Also, I hope you will forgive the audio quality since it was recorded on an old-style cassette recorder and later digitized. Enjoy these tales from an old-time storyteller. I give you Uncle Moe.
Well, Dee, it was sure good to hear you over the telephone the other day and to hear old Hammy's daughter. You know, I don't know how I'm going to start on this thing, but I think I'll just start in from the time we first met each other. And see, I was working out here in Klamath Falls, Oregon. I got drafted, of course, and ended up in Fort Lewis, Washington. Then went to Camp Roberts for 13 weeks of basal training. Then they sent me to Fort Ord in the MP company up there. And, you know, that's where I met old Hammy and old Stone County Tartar and a bunch more of them up there. And Hammy, he was over the woodworking doings there for a while. I was there, you know, on extra things besides walking the beat in Salinas and Monterey and different places like that. And then we got a Jeep and started driving patrol, you know, all over, everywhere around there, and Monterey and Salinas and different parts of the country there. And then him and I was stationed in that old military police station down there in Monterey. And some of the things that happened in there, you know, they had these big old knockdown and drag outs in these bars down there. And I drove a great big old army truck, and he was corporal, you see, then, and he would yell at me and say, "Mo, they're having a big drag out down in the Blue Moon or somewhere." And we'd get in that old truck and down that old street we would go, that old winch sticking out there 4 feet in front of it. And we'd drive right up against the side of that old tavern wherever they was at in there. Go in there and break up that big old brawl, the fight they was having. Then we'd drag them up to the police station and throw them in, you see. then find out what outfit we was out of and everything, and send 'em back to their outfit on some other truck. Somebody would have to come and get 'em. And I don't know whatever happened to 'em then. That's enough for me. One time we had a drunk up there, and Hammy was trying to fill out his report, and then he was carrying on and trying to tear up everything. And I remember I grabbed him and throwed him down on a chair and broke the whole chair down. And so when he hit in the bottom of the floor with the chair, he sure sat there. And the old Hammy never could get over that. But anyway, he played a guitar. And so I'm going to play that tune. Something about like he did. I played the French harp and he played the guitar. We only had a guitar and a French harp, and so I thought we could do better if I played the French harp and he played the guitar, you know. Yeah, here's a good old song that Hammy always liked to hear me play. The Green Valley Waltz. Yow. And so we was down in that old MP station whenever the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor, you know. And Hammy gave me a pass to go to Fort Ord that day to visit some people up there. I thought I was going to have a day off. So I was hitchhiking up there when I heard that the Japs was bombed Pearl Harbor. And so then talk about a madhouse around there, I tell you. And we patrolled all over Monterey and Salinas and the outskirts towns around there. And they made them keep their lights out. And every place was complete blackout, you know. Then we all moved back to Fort Ord. Then we moved to San Jose, California. The division headquarters and the military police was in San Jose. And we patrolled all over that place, you see. Walked a beat and talk about a madhouse around there, you see. And so that's the way him and I really got acquainted, because most generally where he was at, we was at. Then we went down, after we got through there and everything organized, then we went clear down to San Luis Obispo. And we was a training for North Africa. Africa, you know, they was aiming to send us all over to North Africa. Then they discovered they was getting along so well over there that they didn't need us in North Africa. But we spent 10 weeks down there on that old Mojave Desert, down there in that, all over that old desert there in California, going here and there and here. And one time I was driving in a blackout. I was driving a great, big old overgrown, fat corporal. and I couldn't see nothing. I went over a bank in that old half-ton pickup, and it lit flat on its wheels about 10 foot down, and that great big fat hound hind end was so heavy it just busted that seat. I never could get that seat to work anymore, but he said he didn't ever want me to drive him anymore. So in a way, I didn't have to monkey with him. But we was down there 10 weeks training for motorized division training, and we used to pick up the drunks, and we used to have to guard bridges and everything. One time we was a guarding the bridge there on maneuvers, you know, that's what we simulating, you see. And we had a feller there from Georgia. He could make an old rooster shame himself for crowing. And he wrote a letter, and we was miles from any place to mail the letter. And it was on that old 66 highway. And he said, I wonder how I'm ever going to mail this letter. And I said, land, when a car comes, just take it up and stop the car and have them to take it in the needles and mail it. And so that's what Hammy told him to do. And so when here come an old trap of a car a-smoking that looked like a steam engine with a whole load of kids and everything in it, and that outrageous feller from Georgia run up there and jobbed his old rifle up in front of that car and stopped it, and like to scare them to death, and they wanted to know what is the matter. They thought the bridge was out, you know, and he walked up and said, I wonder if you can mail this letter for me in needles. That feller grabbed that letter and like to tore the rest of the rubber off his old wheels starting out and the smoke a-rolling. And if I'd have been him, I never would have mailed that old letter. But we kept a-working and a-working and a-training. Then when we got back to San Luis Obispo, why, they discovered that they didn't need us in North Africa, so I just got to saying just now. And they sent us back to Fort Ord, and we had to train for amphibious training for the Pacific. So we went through all that training, about 10 weeks more of it. And then they put us on an old ship on maneuvers and sent us from Frisco to San Diego. Went down there and had maneuvers. And when we come back, on that old ship, we got off of it and had a landing on Monterey Bay. That's one of the most fiercest bay on the Pacific, I guess, on the kind of undertows and everything out there. And we was on the beach and talk about losing equipment. We lost more equipment on Monterey Bay on maneuvers than we did all the other times in the war. But we was there, run out of water, and Hammy wanted to know if I knew where to get some water, and I said, yeah, I know, right over the hill. There's a spike camp over there. So I grabbed about 6 canteens and went over there and talk about a barbed wire entanglement that I had to cross, about 30 foot across. I never got across that thing. And I went down through about a 20-acre cow pasture down through there, whistling and a-singing. And when I got down there at that old spike camp, an old long gangling first sergeant come out, and I always like to say something, you see. And so I said, hi, Sarge. And I said, how in the world do you expect anybody to ever get across that barbed wire fence you got up there? And you know, his old jaws began to quiver, and I thought that he had the locked jaw. He couldn't say nothing, and pretty soon he said, where'd you come from? And I said, up there, down over that hill. And he said, didn't you see nobody? And I said, land, no. Was I supposed to see somebody? And he said, but there's ammunition dumps up there. Nobody's allowed there. You're supposed to have been shot coming down through there. And I said, land, I didn't see nobody. And he made me walk 5 miles back around that road, getting back. I never found my outfit. And they thought I got lost, you see. They thought, they didn't think it's ever going to get back. But anyway, that's just one of the other things that happened to us while we was in the United States before we went overseas, you see. But anyway, I don't think I was ever around a more pleasant, more funnier, and a comicer person than he was. So we got to have another tune now, something like we played, while I think up something else we did. Here's one we played. We always like to play the new ones, you know. Yeah, we used to run them crazy playing tunes. But then we finally got over that amphibious training, so they sent us back up to San Francisco on the old ship. We went to Attu on an old ship called the Old Preda. And they wouldn't ever tell us where we was going until we was 3 days out, you know, in the ocean. And talk about rough water. And I tell you, I never did get seasick myself. But Hammy like to died getting seasick. And many others like to died with seasick. But I guess the reason I never, because I rode so many mules down there in Missouri, you see. And I guess that's the reason I didn't get seasick, because I guess I was used to waving back and forth, you see, like that. One time I was coming from the mess hall on that old ship, and a feller asked me, said, Moe, help me carry this garbage can out. He was on KP, out on the side of the ship. Then of a night they'd throw it overboard, you know. And so I said, sure. I grabbed the hold of the handle of it, and we went about 10 feet. And that feller said, set her down. And we set it down, and the lid come off, and in went his head in that garbage can. Sicker'n a mule. Then we went about 10 feet farther, and he said, set her down. And he yanked off that old lid, and in went his head. And I didn't think was ever going to get that old garbage can out there on the side of the ship. He was so sick, and I really felt sorry for that feller. But anyway, we went on up there, and you know, we landed on Attu in a snowdrift, snow about 4 foot deep on the beach of that old island, and we had to try to dig holes to dig into the down in that outrageous place. And we had to go out on a patrol around the island after we got there, and I tell you, talk about miserable. It was sleeting, snowing, sleeting, and that was in May, you know, May the 11th when we landed there. And boy, we got up there and dug in with our machine guns and everything, and I tell you, talk about chilly. Land, we shivered so much our teeth got loose, and we couldn't even eat our K rations that we had, you see. Had to take our shoes off and wrap them up in our field jackets we had. And we lost more casualties of being froze to death and frozen feet, frozen hands and everything than the Japs done, you see. And so anyway, we got through that outrageous battle, but they had after the 29th day we was up there, why, they sent me over to Holt's Bay with a bunch. We went around there on an old, some kind of a sub chaser or something. But Hammy, he stayed on Masker Bay, where it was at, and they had to go way up towards the front where the battle ended. And when they was up there was a field hospital up there. And some of our boys was in that field hospital up there on account of being wounded and everything. And they had a big breakthrough. The Japs, they had them cleaned out. The Japs got all psyched up, come down through there and killed everybody in the field hospitals. And many of them in our outfit was killed. And I think right there is when Hammy got wounded or something. I can't remember whether it was that place or in the Philippines, but anyway, he did. And but I didn't happen to be there. But you know, those Japs almost went clear to the beach with their wildness, you know. And it was the 50th Engineers that stopped them down there because they killed all our sentries, you see, and everything. And everybody else was already in their sleeping bags trying to sleep because they thought the war was over there. But it wasn't. And anyway, I got out of it because they sent me over to another place, you know, a couple of days before then. So I missed that. But anyway, that was quite a experience for all of us up there on that outrageous rock of Attu, the Aleutians. I think you probably know where it is. You know, when you look way out on the very tip, western end of the islands on the Aleutian chain, why, you'll see Attu out there. Well, that's enough of gift to gab on that battle. So it's about time for another tune. Here's another one that we used to play, you know. He always liked the more snappier ones. This is Jesse James. You can play like that's him playing the guitar, and that's me playing the old French harp, you see. But anyway, we left that old island and went back to Wahoo again. Then we had jungle training and this and that and this, eating coconuts and talk about coconuts, giving you a physic we didn't know about that. we'd go down the road a half a mile, we'd have to run for the bushes because the coconuts, that coconut oil just, like to killed us. But anyway, we found out we wasn't supposed to eat them things like that. And so, after we got through that jungle training for, 2 or 3 months or so, then we went to the Marshall Islands, down at the island called Kwajalein. And we was there, and we landed on that outrageous island. It was the Kwajalein Atoll on the Marshalls, biggest island there. It was 2.5 miles long and a half a mile wide in the widest part. And early in the morning, about 3 in the morning, those old battleships, cruisers, and all the Navy begin to really cough out those big old 16 and 14-inch shells over there on that island. About 3 hours, they bombarded that island. Then the big four-motored planes from Australia came and circled over that thing and dropped bombs. I could see them dropping now, coming down out of the air, and it looked like that whole island was just nothing but a fire when all those things was coming down. And the big old battleships never did stop firing until it got full daylight. And you could see the light come from the battleship. Then you could see the light where they hit over there on the island. And then, you could hear the big boom that came from the island after the shell exploded, before the big boom got to us from the battleship, because we was closer to the island than we was the battleship, you see. What an experience. Then when we got over there on that island, we landed on that thing, and it was a mess. If you can stand it, I'll tell you a little bit how it was. There was a pillbox with 7 dead Japs in it right there where we landed. And they were trying to get them out of there. And when they tried to get them out of there, why, we'd cover that old hole back up so they couldn't smell them, you see. Oh, land. And they was 17,000 Japs that came from all the other atolls so they could hold that island. And there was only 75 that come out of there alive because they wouldn't surrender. And most of them was Korean workers, you see, just workers for the Japs. The Japs herself, just every one of them was annihilated. And they dug these great big holes about the size of this house. It's a good sized house. And they would carry them and throw them all in there, then put a sign up on each hole how many was in there, you see. And so war is not very pleasant, you see. But anyway, we finished that. Make a long story short, we finished that. And we came on back to Wahoo again and done a lot more training, rehabilitating and training. And then we went from there to the Philippines. And we went clear down, if it's all right for me to tell you, we went clear down below the equator to a place called Manus Island. And we was there, sat there for 7 to 10 days waiting for orders to know where to go. We was supposed to go to island of Yap. But anyway, they discovered that wasn't worth landing on. We'd just starve them to death there. So we bypassed that and went on down and waited there. Then we went to from there to the Philippines. But we had quite a time when we was down there. Having happy hours on the ship, playing our old guitars and everything, you know. Then we went from there to the Lady Philippines, and we landed on that island. And talk about a madhouse when we landed there. And we was in an old Hagen's boat, and we couldn't hardly get that outrageous door down to get out of there. And those Japs was blowing the tops out of those old coconut trees with point blank, I tell you. And talk about jittery. And we got out of there and we run up on the beach, and a big old ammunition dump began to blow up. And we run back to the beach, and we jumped in a hole, an old shell hole, and there's a big old long gangling Norwegian kid that jumped in there with us. And you know what he said? He said, "Moe, you should have your old guitar." But you know, it was harder than blazes too, and I wasn't no mood for no guitar there. But anyway, we went on to a place called up by Dagami, and we all was for 2 weeks we'd been out in the rain and water and sleeping in foxholes full of water, everything, and we finally got in an old Filipino house. It was about 20 by 14 wide, and there was about 50 or 60 of us in there trying to get out of the rain where it's dry, and we was all laying down just like cordwood on the floor of that old house. We throwed everything else out so we'd have room. And a couple of bombs dropped about a couple of 100 yards from us out there over by a river. And we all got up the same time and started running the same time. Couldn't see nothing. And we took the whole end of that old house clear out. The whole end of that old house, Filipino old house, clear out. Hammy, he lit in the garbage pits, you know, the slit trench and everything. And what a mess he was in. Any place to get out of sight, you see. And when that old Filipino came the next day to look at his house, he looked and he looked and he said, "American sure likes big doors." And you know, well, Dee, here we are on the other side now. I guess I finished enough on that one side about there in that place in the Philippines where we landed, but I haven't ever got all over the Philippines yet. And before I start out on any more of the history of that thing, see, I'm just hitting the high spots of the things which we did, you know. There was a lot more than we did, but I'm just hitting the high spots, you know, of these places. And here's a song that we wrote over there. We wrote quite a few songs of fighting the old Japs and when I was in the army. But here's one of them that we kind of like. It's same tune as a Marine hymn. It goes like this. Now, I got the distemper, you see, and I'm not much of a singer, but I'll try to sing it. From the halls of Honolulu, and I crossed the seven seas. Every serviceman on liberty loved to meet them nice and tea. At every Sunday kills some button, and his shirt weighs in the breeze. They'll blindly help him tidy up, and they're blessed in their peace. You know it. From the history of America, if you follow their career, they'll never have a friendly word from the boys who love them here. If the Army and the Navy ever gets a devil's sheep, you'll find that hell is guarded by the 7th Division MP. Oh, oh, hey, oh, hey. Yeah, what a song. But you know, when we left that place there on that side of the island in the Philippines, we went over to a place called Bay. And we was over there. Hammy went over there first, you know. And we had to patrol and watch everything you can imagine there. And one time, I tell you, I just well tell you, we was in an old Filipino house. This Filipino was sort of the up and up. I think it was the mayor's house of Bay. And we was in an old upper room in that thing. And we had our old guitar, and we went over to another Filipino house made out of bamboo and everything, hogs under it and everything. And well, they began to give us some glasses of that rice wine. And you know, I had an old Jap French harp about 8 inches long, and I was sitting on a 3-legged chair, and somebody was behind me, holding that French harp, and I was playing the Mule Skinner blues with that old French harp and the guitar. And I tell you, what a time we was a-having, and the Japs dropped a bomb not far from there at an old bridge up there, and like to shook that old house down. I never seen so many spiders come out of the ceiling of that thing. And the Filipinos, they run like wild deer, and they all run under that old house. And we finally, see, we was tanked up on rice wine. We wasn't worried at all, you see. Anyway, we finally got them all back in there again. Then those, we was playing some more, and they dropped another bomb somewhere around there, and they run out of there, and we never did get 'em back again. So we just packed up our stuff, and we went over to our old house, and there we was, you know. That's just one of the things, you know, we did while I was there. And, but we rehabilitated there on, in the Philippines. Then it wasn't long till we all had to move out and go to Okinawa. So I'll give you another song of some of them that we played. Here's the one that we used to really like to play. The old Recca 97, number 9, or 97. Yeah, the old 97. There's so many numbers of a train, I have to get them all right, you see. soldiers and Monroe's Virginians saying, keep your way behind time. This is not 38, but he told 97, put her in center on time. Oh, he turned around saying to his black greasy fireman, shove her in a little more coal. And when we hit that wide open mountain, you can watch your 97 roll. He was going down the road making 90 miles an hour, and the whistle broke into a scream. He was found in the wreck with his hand on the throttle, stalled to death by the steam. Ladies, stop and take warning from this time now and no. Never speak harsh words to your true love and husband. He may leave you and never return. Tired, hello, oh, hello, tired, yeah, that's just one of them. But anyway, we finally moved off of that island, and I tell you what a time we had. You know, the fella run that LST that we rode from there to Okinawa on, he must have been new on it, because when he tried to make a landing, the tide was out about 4 feet. And he landed way out there and just couldn't make it at all. Then I tell you, the next morning, why, he forgot about the tide coming in, and he made a big plow up through there as hard as he could to make it, you see. And I had that old dock made out of coconut trees, you know. And he hit that outrageous dock. The tide was up, you know, and nothing slowed him down. He hit that old dock and tore about 50 feet of that old dock out. And I tell you, it was like they never got loaded on that thing on account of that dock being tore to pieces, you see. But we got on it. And talk about a typhoon that we had. Getting up there from the Philippines to Okinawa. Oh, we went in a typhoon. I never seen such. I didn't think we was ever going to make it on that outrageous boat. But we did. And we got up there in a hornet's nest. Just as soon as we got there, talk about the Japs trying to sink us. They dive right into the boats, you see. And one old Jap was coming with his old plane, and every place I run on that old LST, it looked like that's where he was going to hit. But they shot a wing clear off of him, and his propeller clear off, and he landed about 30 feet past the fantail, the back of the ship, you know. Boy, I was glad of that. And that's on April Fool's Day, 1944, I think it was. Maybe it's 45, I guess it was. That's been a long time ago, you know. I think it's 45, April Fool 45. But anyway, make a long story short, we got through that outrageous war. One time we was coming up Billy Goat Trail. I named about all the hills of the outrageous roads, you see. And we was coming up that old Billy Goat Hill, and was coming into the compound, and it was late after dark, and they had a hand grenade tied. Our folks did, had a hand grenade tied on each side of the road. And when we felt that wire a-scraping up across the hood of that old Jeep, Hammy let out a holler and said, "Stop." And we discovered what that was. It was a hand grenade See, all it would have had to done, had a little pressure and pulled the pins on that hand grenade, would have blowed us to pieces, you see. But we got her all fixed, undone and everything, and right in front of us, about 100 yards, there was a machine gun nest looking right at us. And so we let them know who we was and everything. And when they hear somebody from Missouri or somebody from West Virginia, they know that's not a Jap, you see. And so our noise is recognized right off. So we got through that. And but just when we was getting ready to leave that island, they was going to give us after the war, you know, they was going to give us a great big chicken and turkey dinner. Oh, they was going to give us a good send-off, you know. And it come a typhoon, 120-mile wind. They said it was. I think it's harder than that. And blowed everything they was away. Blowed that mess hall. You never thought there was ever one there. Nothing there. And all we got was an orange. And this old tent that we was in, an old pyramidal tent, I took the axe off of that old Jeep and I chopped that old center pole clear down till it was about 4 foot tall, and piled rocks all around there at the edge of that old tent we did. And talk about the wind beating us. And we finally had to get out of that old tent. And I went and got in a great big old deep hole with an old Indian. He was from Spraguesfield, Oregon, down there north of Klamath Falls, Oregon. And talk about a storyteller. I never heard such a storyteller in my life, but it was better than sitting there silent. He was telling about an old drunk down there in Sprague, Oregon, you know, Sprague River, Oregon. He said that he went in this old bar, and the more that he thought about that old feller out there in the woods that he was mad at, the madder he got at him. So about midnight, he went out there, and he went in that old bachelor's house, and he was in bed, and he knocked that old bachelor out, and he said he broke up everything he had in that old house and threw it over the top of him, and he got the coal oil can, and he poured all that coal oil all over that old bed and that old man. And he said he looked high and low for a match and could never find a match. And he had to walk away and leave that old man laying there on the bed like that. Now, that was just some of the stories he was telling. But, you know, that old general man was out there waiting, but the Hammy, he had more points than I see. And he was able to get on a ship sooner than me. And, you know, I've never seen him since. Yeah, that's the last time I seen him, when he got on the boat to come home. I never did know if he still stayed in San Jose or went back to Charleston, West Virginia. So one day, you know, I called up to just see if he was down there. And, you know, I got a hold of him. And boy, how wonderful that was. And he said he had this outrageous emphysema. And I know how that is, 'cause my pop had that stuff, you know. And it was really good. But, you know, the greatest thing that the news from me is when he said that he received Christ as his Savior. And, you know, I did too. But, you know, when we was in that war, neither one of us knew the Lord. And in 1952, I received Christ as my Savior. I don't know when Hammy did, but you know, he's up there with the Lord now. And you know, I'm going to be up there with the Lord one of these days. I don't know if I'll live to the rapture or if I will kick the bucket for them. But I know where I'm a-going, and I'll be up there with Him. And what a time we're going to have together. You know, we're going to both have that beautiful spiritual body, bones, flesh, and spirit. And you know, just like that good old song, like it goes like this, if I can remember a chorus of it. Sanding down on the banks of the river, neath the shade of the evergreen tree, I shall rest from my burden forever. Won't you take your vacation with me? Yeah, we'll sit down on the banks of that beautiful river, and we'll be able to talk forever and ever and ever. And Dee, I sure hope that you find out about your half-sister there in San Jose. And I believe that you can share in the veil. And I think I might have a picture of them around here somewhere. If I do, I'll sure send it to you. I tell you, they were just young kids, you know, and really is nice-looking people. And I hope that you get everything straightened out, and be sure and write to us now. And if we ever get down there in West Virginia, you know where we're going. We're going to go and see you. We sure are. And if you ever can get away from that place down there, why, you come up here, see us. I'll never forget the story they used to tell on Hammy there, by him being, they said, all and he swung through the grapevines to get there. And they used to say worse than that to me. And one time, one of them was saying Hammy was working in the cornfield, and something happened, and he jumped up right in the middle of the road and led into some people that was walking up that road, mattering away at him, and he said, "This is the third time I fell out of that field." Well, that's just things, you know, that they said about us, you know, that they didn't know how smart people from the hills back there was, you see. So they got surprised. But anyway, you have a real good New Year's now, a good Happy New Year's, and tell everybody we said hello, okay?
By the way, my wife Dee did eventually locate and get in touch with her half-sister, and they have had the opportunity to meet and spend time together. It's a wonderful thing. Thanks for listening today. If you would like to receive notifications of new episodes, go to holbrooknewmedia.com. You will be able to subscribe to the blog and also any of the places the podcast is published. I hope you have a great day.